to Black Light Mass Incarceration Show. I am your host, Sierra Cobb. Black Light Mass Incarceration Show is a space that is used to uplift the unheard voices of the criminal and social justice issues that many face today. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoy. Hey, Black Light. Sorry it's been a while. Things have been crazy, but I'm back with another episode. I got a guy from Virginia who is going to tell his story about being incarcerated as a juvenile and receiving a lengthy sentence. And as you know, most states have passed a law where they can't give juveniles life without parole. And so he is in that situation where he was a juvenile, received life without parole, and since the new law has changed, he has been trying to get paroled and has been denied. So today he will be telling his story, and let's get this story out and get some awareness to it, because we also have another case like that in North Carolina where a guy received the same thing, he's trying to get paroled, and the parole board, of course, is denying him and has done at least 20 years. So yeah, let's get this story out and get some attention to it, and let's jump right to it. All right, so
Hello.
go ahead and state who you are and where you are, and tell us your story.
Okay. Well, my name is Abdul Mumin, and my name was formerly known as Travis Jackson Marin. I'm currently incarcerated at Green Rock Correctional Center in Chatham, Virginia. So the gist of what I'm going through and what I've been through is when I was 16 years old in 1997, I was at a party with some friends of my brother, and they ended up drugging me without me understanding and knowing what was happening. So I ended up with a fixed cigar that had marijuana and PCP in it. I ended up blacking out, and so on that night, what ended up happening was the guy that I knew of, who ended up known to be a child molester, he ended up dying that night, and then I was the one that got accused of killing him. So in Chesapeake Circuit Court, they ended up indicting me and trying me from a juvenile at 16 years old and certifying me to an adult. And so the following year in 1998, I thought I was going for a hearing to select jury members and go to a trial. But it ended up turning out my lawyers, the prosecutor, and the judge was basically setting me up to an illegal guilty plea. Without my parents or even notified, they weren't present or none of that. And so eventually they ended up sentencing me to 108 years with 53 suspended, left me with 55. So at 17, 18 years old, I ended it to the Virginia Department of Corrections. I didn't know how to file appeals or anything like that. My lawyers initially told me the day that I got sentenced that they was going to appeal my case for me,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't end up doing that. They actually lied to me about that, and that caused me to be time barred. So unbeknownst to me, the trappings of the appeals process, the court process, and all of that, I didn't know how to file anything or do anything. No lawyer helped me, no advocacy group helped me, or anything like that. I ended up losing on my appeals process all the way to the United States Supreme Court. And the reason why I was even denied my appeals wasn't because I was claiming actual innocence of some sort, and due to lack of effective assistance of counsel and all these other claims that I made,
Mm-hmm.
but I was denied because they said I was time barred and the guilty plea cured any and all of the defects,
Right.
despite the guilty plea being threatened and coerced and forced.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it was actually at that time, the death penalty was still in Virginia. So my lawyers would tell me if I ever tried to take a jury trial, that the jury would kill me. So they would tell this to my mother, and she unfortunately a couple years ago passed away. So I'm basically one of the only ones besides my youth pastor a long time ago who could verify that statement being done. Um, Now we can go through the hardships and a lot of things, that as a kid you face when the criminal justice system doesn't look at you as a kid and they throw you in a male predatory system and they don't even realize what they're doing and there's no protections involved, there's no safety nets, there's no nothing. Being a kid and not only that, like 5'10", 150, 160 pound white kid, there's a lot of predatory individuals who off the rip wanted to try to attack me and rape me and stuff like that, and I
And
had to get
extort.
into fights to defend myself. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So, and the crazy thing about it is, in the process of defending myself, I end up with institutional charges for fighting because I'm defending myself. You know.
Right.
Um. So, and this crazy thing about it is, this is when the new prison, Red Onion State Prison, opened up, the first level 6 supermax in the state of Virginia, and it was supposed to house the worst of the worst in the prison system. And I just got into the prison system and didn't do nothing wrong. I scored level 3, and they automatically sent me to this place.
Now, Red
Um,
Onion is the one that's shut down now, right?
as far as I know, it's not, from my understanding, but it is one who's got a lot of scrutiny for wrongly putting people on long-term segregation. There's been a lot of advocates against that in and of itself. Wallens Ridge, I believe there's rumors floating in the system that they're going to shut it down because there's foundational issues in regards to where it was built on the backside of the mountain, where there's mines all around that are subject to collapse, and that could be part of that issue. Um, so yeah, that's
Hmm.
the only things I know of as of right now. Um, so fortunately, what happened in Virginia, Virginia got wind of the national campaign for the fair sentencing of youth. And so there was a family in Virginia and advocates in Virginia who also pushed forward with a bill for juveniles, and the Senator Dave Marsden helped sponsor that. And this started somewhere around 2017, 2018. And so for 3 years, they were fighting for this bill for individuals like me who were tried as convicted as an adult, but were incarcerated at the age of 16, 15, or under 18, and to be eligible for parole. And at that time, there was also what's called the Fishback Bill, which gave individuals the opportunity to be eligible for parole who had constitutional violations regarding jury trials. So fortunately, in 2020, it passed in the General Assembly and it became retroactive July 1st of 2020. So I qualified for that bill immediately and for parole and the release on parole immediately. And upon that year, I
Now,
didn't even get a parole hearing.
how many years have you been incarcerated?
I've been incarcerated now 27 and a half years.
Okay.
So now, instead of being 16, I'm 44 years old.
Mm.
Um, so, yeah, we got eligibility for parole, and we're going up for parole. And each year, what ended up happening was the parole board ends up denying guys like me wrongfully the parole that the statutes mandate that we are given if we meet 3 standards. So the 3 standards by law was rehabilitation, demonstrated maturity, and due to lesser culpability of juvenile offenders. And so I've met all 3 of those requirements. And so by law, they're supposed to grant me the parole, and they have not done so. So they're in violation of that Virginia Code in and of itself, which is specifically Virginia Code 53.1-136 and 53.1-165.
So, what is the
So now,
reasons why they're saying that you're being denied?
all right, so the same reasons that they use, what we call OLO guys who were locked up in the 70s and the 80s and the early 90s before parole was even abolished in the mid 90s, they use the same reasons that they deny them, saying that I need to serve more time after having even doing over 27 years. That the seriousness of my crimes is because of the death, the robbery, and the firearm charges involved in the killing of this individual that I knew, and to release me now with the diminished the seriousness of the crime, and that due to my crimes. And then they say I need to show more stable adjustment, and due to my institutional infractions. So these reasons are completely contradictory to what is in the legislative bill. So being is that I'm in here, and I've accomplished all that I have with every cognitive program that they can come up with. I pretty much got it. Trade classes, I couldn't get into them because of my time, but
Right.
now I've been able to get in one for surveying, which is pretty awesome. And now, then you look at the home factor, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
is a home plan. Home plan is like we was mentioning, where you're going home to what? All right. So I have at least 6 home plans involving the communities that I used to live in with my family, then communities that are outside of my family, which involves networking within the communities in their areas, not only in this state, but it includes North Carolina, New Hampshire. It was where my sister used to live in Wyoming. Um, and I even have other countries where, due to my religious faith and networking that I want to do by getting all kinds of donors involved to help communities in places like Malaysia, Indonesia, and Uganda, and help develop these smaller villages and things like that, where I've met people throughout my incarceration to help them with.
Right. So they are denying you. And then what? So let me ask you this: when was the last time you actually had an institutional violation?
About 6 months ago, I had a job working in the medical department at a previous prison, and during that time, a supervisor, for some odd reason, didn't want me to work for them no more, and wanted someone else to work with them. So instead of just transferring me out of that job, they made up an institutional charge saying I conspired to steal their coffee.
Oh my goodness.
This, despite having bags and bags of coffee of my own and money to get even whatever I wanted, you know.
Right.
And this is even despite the fact that I've cleaned and thoroughly fixed that medical unit better than, and all the doctors and nurses. They all love me and my work ethic, and said they've never seen that medical department as clean as I've done it. So uh, a lot of it, I feel like it has to do with because of
Your
my faith
advocacy
being right,
and
right.
your faith and
So,
advocacy. Yeah.
yep,
So I want to talk about, I want to kind of go back. I know that, you said that you were coerced into a plea deal. And I think that that's very
correct,
important because I don't think a lot of people understand that even though you have an attorney, your attorney can coerce you into a unlawful plea deal that does not fit you. Because my husband was also coerced into a plea deal. He's
correct,
incarcerated for second degree murder, which he did not commit. There's no evidence that he committed it or conspired. And so he had the same thing. It was a capital murder case, and his attorney told
correct.
him to sign the plea deal because he would rather for him to come home than not, and that if he went to trial, that he would be found guilty and he would get the death penalty. And so I don't think people understand that a lot of lawyers seem to. I don't say I'm not going to say they work with the state, but they don't have the best
Right.
interest of their client, and it could be
That's
because they're
100%
they're
correct.
they're overworked and underpaid. But a lot of people are coerced into pleading guilty to something they didn't do because they are scared that they will go to trial and their lawyer won't put on the best show and actually show that their client is not guilty. And so that happens a lot to a lot of people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the fortunate thing is not a lot of citizens in this country only ever realize how bad things can get when it comes to going through the court system. There
Mm-hmm.
isn't a show that has the reality of how things can be. The closest one that I've seen that actually could show people that how bad things can get with corrupted practices, but also the lack of individuals fighting for the right thing, would be that show I've seen before called Blue Blood, where they actually, you have a character who's the assistant attorney general, that actually, if they see some corrupted practice happen, they go to fix it and they make amends for that. But that don't ever happen in this country,
No.
because that's a Hollywood idea. So just like anyone who's actually innocent, we know for a fact there are actually innocent people in the Virginia Department of Corrections. And there is absolutely no attorney general, no lawyer that's ever going to say, okay, you know what, we were wrong. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to fix it and we're going to get you out right now.
Mm-hmm.
No, they fight you.
They
They
do.
fight you just like they tell me, no, you're guilty plea. You did this and you did that. But hold on a minute. You don't know why or understand, and you never talked to me about anything. and then you just go off of that. So it's always, and this is the thing that is hard about that is that, like you said, learning a lot of the legal ethics that I have, learning about the law and what really goes on. And I come to learn that a lawyer's actual duties, his first and most responsibility is not to his client, it's to the court itself.
Yep.
Because all of these individuals are agents of the same organization, which is the Bar Association. And the bar stands for British Accreditation Regency. So how does that affect American people when you're talking about a British organization in this country, and people want to relay about how democracy flourishes and democracy this, democracy that. But all I see is an oligarchy. I see the few ruling the many. I see judges violating their oath, making laws, but they're the judicial branch. They're not the legislative branch. I see judges enforcing things, and they're not the executive branch. That's what the Attorney General's office and these other firms are supposed to do. You're talking about all schools who tell people how to manipulate the rules, how to find loopholes, how to deceive jury members to send someone to a prison system that don't even deserve to be doing that, instead of fighting for what they're supposed to. So now that's why everything crumbles the way it does. And that's why we see the injustice that we see.
You have 1 minute remaining.
You can call right back.
Okay, that'll work. And that's what we'll do as soon as possible, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, this is my last call for the day, so
okay.
I'll get back with you tomorrow.
All right. So, yeah, you can go ahead and continue.
Okay. So, yeah. So, to the point that it's what we're facing, and the sad part about it is a lawyer once told me, and this costs my family $250 to have a 30-minute phone call with a lawyer who has connections with advocates for criminal justice reform, governor's office, and things of this nature. So this is how people get trapped in prison systems. He says that, Mr. Marin, no one's going to help you because you're poor, you're not famous, no one famous is helping you, you don't have no media attention, your case isn't high profile, and all of these news stations and reporters that you're reaching out to in these TV shows, if they look at your story and they feel like they can't make no money off of you, they're not going to do your story. And I'm like, well, this is insane. And the reality I've seen, it made sense. Because when I have my loved ones, my family, trying to email news stations like News Nation, which is supposed to be gaining in the area a lot of popularity, with its morning show, afternoon show. You got people like Adrian Bankert, you got Dan Abrams, Chris Cuomo joined the show now, Leland Verdict, and this slew of individuals that have these shows, and they talk about all these injustices. I'm trying to contact them, and I've talked to even some of their producers and asked them, hey, let me talk to such and such. Let me talk to Mr. Abrams. Let me talk to Mr. Bankert. Let me talk to Mr. Cuomo. I want to tell them I need their help to save my life. This is the reality we're dealing with. I'm talking about save a good person's life. Because for some odd reason, everybody thinks and has the stigma that every single person that's incarcerated is a very evil person. And it's just not that way.
Not true.
Sometimes things happen, and a good person has to defend somebody, just like what I did. I defended myself, but I don't know what the damn hell happened because I was blacked out. I can't say I'm 100% innocent. I didn't ever say I was 100% innocent. But what I did say was my lawyers lied to me, set me up to an illegal guilty plea, and that's exactly what all of them did in the court. And then you got individuals that are 100% innocent, but nobody wants to do that because everybody goes off of this perception, and that's the way it is. It's no longer about what's right and what's wrong. So when people like CNN, Dateline, 2020, and I sit here and I can name off all these shows like Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, I've even wrote letters to the ACLU and either these law schools and these advocacy groups who are for criminal justice reform, just like ones which you see with Meek Mills and all of them do.
Reform.
And you get no response.
We haven't got no response either. Even the what is it? George Washington? That school, and we wrote them
Washington
we wrote them. I mean, we wrote everybody, and we're just like you, get no response.
hmm And this is the hard truth, especially when it comes to states like Virginia. These lawyers and all of them, and the prosecutors and the judges and the lawyers, even ex-judges and lawyers who know the trappings that's in Virginia, they say, "I got to work in that state. Why do I want to ruffle what's going on in Virginia?" And
Mm-hmm.
that's sad. It's really, really sad. And you see TV shows that you see, and they help certain people, and they say, "Hey, if you got a story idea, write us, let us know."
Mm-hmm.
And my mom, before she passed away, was trying so hard to find information to contact people with Good Morning America because they're always looking for story ideas. I'm like, how are they getting these ideas? How are they getting these stories and choosing people to do a story about? When my mother can't find nothing, no contact information whatsoever to get people to air this out, right?
Right.
So, and when it comes down to it, this oligarchy that I was mentioning, this political patronage system that this parole board is, the governor themselves institute political patronage systems. That's a constitutional violation of the First Amendment. People have the right to be free from political discrimination. So when you're making your campaign, as even presidents do, make their campaigns about anybody that come when I come into office, it's a Democrat, you're fired, and then I'm going to hire Republican associates. That's a law violation off the rip. Your oath of office is violated, your constitution is violated, and you just implemented the political patronage. So this is what I brought up to my lawsuit, which is a habeas corpus appeal slash civil action under subsection 1983, which is a joint action. It's a hybrid case. I got it now sitting in the Virginia Supreme Court, showing these judges in the Virginia Supreme Court what the lower courts have already done. They already violated their oath of office. You're talking about judges who intentionally deny either jurisdiction or intentionally allow the Attorney General's office to violate their own rules, their own codes, their own statutes, and let them get away with violating the law, let them get away with breaking timelines and deadlines, and filing perjured statements. But
Yep.
just like you said, if when your husband tried to do the same thing, what do? They never gave him a chance. They never gave him a chance to show that he was innocent, and they didn't care. No matter what he tried to put forward, they broke the law. Just like when they talking about me, you can't threaten a person to do something and then think it's okay to do
And then
that.
my,
That's
my
a
husband
coercion.
even wrote a motion, and the lawyer told him it was a good motion for misidentification of witness, and they wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
even use that motion. Like I have so many letters that he wrote his lawyer and said, "I know my case. I just
Yep.
need for you to represent me," and they would
Exactly.
not, and did not. And we even
Mm-hmm.
reached out to a lawyer that he had used before, and he told
Mm-hmm.
us, well, who was your lawyer? And he told him the lawyer, and he was like, oh, well, I don't want to take the case because I know him. He's like, I'm not his friend, but I do know him and I
Mm-hmm.
work with him. Like, that's
Mm-hmm.
crazy that you know somebody
Mm-hmm.
was done wrong, but because you know the lawyer, you don't want to take the case on and try to get him free when you know he's innocent.
That's correct. That's correct. And that has to do with this district as well. We're in what's called the fourth district, Circuit Court of Appeals. That's the federal level, the fourth federal level. And every single one of these individuals know how to help somebody. So the bottom line is, and this is what should scare every single person in this country. It's not about whether you're guilty or innocent. And this is what I learned. It's called the appearance trap. If they bring you into court and you acknowledge you are who you are, and you acknowledge in any way, shape, fashion, or form of these charges and what they're trying to bring against you, you just made an appearance in that court and you just gave them jurisdiction to do to you whatever they want to do to you. It's no longer about if you're guilty or innocent. This whole Hollywood scheme and false idea that you're innocent until proven guilty, no, you're
No,
not.
you're not.
You're guilty
You're guilty
because
until
you're in
proven
prison.
innocent. Mm-hmm.
Right. Nobody can testify under the penalty of perjury before a grand jury that they've seen you and got evidence that you did X, Y, Z. And you have to have those elements for an affidavit for a warrant to arrest someone in order to do those things. And I guarantee you, they don't have none of those things when it's involved with your husband.
No.
Not only that, this is the huge kicker. A person, if accused, also has the right to appear before the grand jury to give their testimony and then disprove what is being said to them before indictment is even brought forward. But do they do that?
No, they
No.
don't even
Do
allow
they
the
tell you that?
lawyer. They don't even allow your lawyer to come to the. A lot of times, your lawyer's not even at the grand jury, and then they're
Right.
presenting. You don't even know what evidence they're presenting to the grand jury.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And then, but you will see that in some of these law shows that they have on TV when they're talking about presenting indictments and testimony before grand jury and if they're going to get an indictment or not. You'll see that. You'll see them actually doing that, but you don't see it in reality.
Right.
And that's the saddest part of it. And so now you got good people whose lives is in danger, and you're reaching out to people asking them for help in that, and you can't get it done. And it's sad that, like we said, people should realize you have a monetary value on you. When it comes to the court system, when it comes to the prison system, you have a monetary value on you. And so the only way you can get something done and change it is by making your voice heard and getting your story out there, just like that lawyer told me. You get it out there, your story's heard, you're making noise, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and now your case is high profile. Now someone's going to have to do something. Why? Because you got the law to prove they violated it, and now they want to make everything right. And that's good. That's what we should do. That's what we need. We need more people to have the courage to step up. We need people to be able to get these podcasts like what you're doing and sponsor them and help them flourish on mainstream media. Just like you got Meta, Mr. Zuckerberg, and his services with Facebook and Meta. That service can be so much grander. It can be so much more applied. He can take his service and he can transform it to a media outlet that will aggregate all of these little news stations. They want to pick and choose and cherry pick who they want to help. They want to cherry pick this person. Why? Because this person looks presentable. They got money. It's going to make us money. So we got our payback. No, it shouldn't be about just that. And, then you got, like we mentioned before, other advocates who want to be about the criminal justice reform system, you know? And what was sad was I was watching Sports Center the other day. My favorite show is First Take. And Molly Karam, she hosts the show. She's the star of the show. And she mentions the story about how LeBron James now is coming away from social media because of how much bad is out there, And I was like, wow, this great individual is going away because it's so much evil. But that goes to show on how scary things really are. But and we all lost a voice of reason, a voice of leadership when he did that, And people were doing that. So I tell my fiance all the time, I said, look, failure is not an option, nor is giving up. And it's us that has to continue to push this same mentality to actors, athletes, every kind of organization that feels like they can't win. It's not about that. It's the fight to begin with. Make the difference. Failure is not an option, nor is giving up. And that's the same fight that you're in, just like your husband's in, and just like hundreds of other innocent people in the Virginia Department of Corrections that nothing's being done about. So that's my goal as well. My goal as well is to, because of what this system has done and because of the ideas I have to help change it for the better. And our governor, Mr. Youngkin, once mentioned before about how he wanted to bring respect back to the Virginia Department of Corrections. But the sad thing about it is it's not going to happen because he still has the same corrupted individuals rising through the ranks, continuing to discriminate against people, continue to retaliate against people, and continue to violate people's rights. And the Attorney General's Office of Virginia is flooded and overwhelmed with lawsuits because of all these violations. And it's only a matter of when they're going to break that they decide that, okay, we need to start making a huge change. And so I'm hoping to be an influence on that and make a difference on that. And then it should hopefully transcend as well down to, cases like your husband, where people actually say, yeah, we need to help these people.
Yeah, because something's got to give. I mean, you just have so many, me and my husband just had that conversation this morning, of if you don't have money, then you nothing. We was talking about the Young Thug trial and how,
Correct.
all the media on that brought attention to, how they do things in Georgia and how because he had money, he was able to get off even pleading guilty. He was able to go home with 15 years probation. But then you got people like you and my husband who can't even get that attention. And I actually wrote an article on my website about that, how you have plenty of people who don't have status and can't get that attention and have to suffer, and a lot of times not even get help and just spend the rest of their life in prison, or 20, 30, 40 years in prison because they don't have status or they don't have money.
That's correct. Absolutely. If and this is the key thing too, having been locked up so young at 16 years old, I was I'm talking about a great baseball player, a really good soccer player. I even played a little bit of high school football most of the time in the neighborhood as well. Is I could have had the attention in high school that high school kids now have, then that would have made a whole different ball game right there. They could not have done to me what they done to me. There was no way they was going to get away with that, because they would have had me on TV as a star athlete waiting to go to college, and that story would have made super big headlines. Mm-hmm. Just like the UVA kid who killed his girlfriend because she broke up with him. His story made such headlines. This man murdered his girlfriend because she broke up with him and got 23 years in prison. As a 20-some-odd-year-old man, he got 23 years in prison. As a 16-year-old kid, drunk and blacked out and drugged and don't know what the hell happened, got 55 to serve at 16 years old. Now, how was that fair? How was that justice on any level whatsoever?
None.
You know?
Yeah, none. That's because you didn't have status. There it goes.
Absolutely. And so now the status quo has to change. And then hopefully that's what we're going to start doing. That's what we're going to push these stories to people. We're hopefully that people can now start making your podcast, your stories, your statements, and everything go viral. That's what we're asking for. We want people to hear this all across the country. Not even just the country, but around the globe. For people to sit there and understand that you have good people trying to make change, so let's help them make the change. And inshallah, we have people to step up to the place for that.
Yeah, I mean, it takes all of us. It always takes a village to make a change. You know, a few people can't make a change, and that's the reason why me and my husband came out with this podcast. We have over 50 episodes with a lot of people saying that they were wrongfully convicted or that they were given too much time and they've changed their life around and can't get any help, can't find a lawyer, you know. And so this is why we made this podcast, was to let people tell their story, because a lot of times you don't hear their story. Right. You just hear what they want to put on the TV. You know, if it's like my husband's case was a big case, so it was all over the news on every news station. And so you never heard his side of it. You just heard what they put out, what the prosecutors wanted the story to be.
Correct.
And it wasn't correct. And so that's why we did this, to let people tell their story so they can hear the truth come from the person's mouth, you know?
That's correct. Absolutely. Because the prosecutors, the judge, and all of them on my side of the case as well never talked to me about anything ever. My lawyers wouldn't even let my local news station, Wavy TV 10, talk to me. That's how bad they wanted me to keep quiet about what was going on. And then my mom figured out, she said, that guy, he had to have some really good friends and stuff like that to help protect him, to keep his secret about being a child molester. I said, Mom, you're probably right. I said, because he had a safe full of pictures of his victims and videos, and they never let me go to trial. They never let me get that out. They never wanted me to speak about it.
And that's a violation of your Constitution, because you have the right to confront your witnesses. You have that right. That is your right.
Absolutely. And I brought those claims up later on, but you know what? That's what the court, the Virginia Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, they all violated the law in and of themselves. They allow a rule. This is a court rule now. A court rule is the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to rules and laws and statutes. It cannot supersede the United States Constitution. So they let a non-positive law, a rule, supersede the positive law of the United States Constitution. So how much more treasonous can you get to the Constitution than that? Exactly. And no one seems to want to raise that flag. So, but hopefully we're doing that today.
Yep. Well, we're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep, getting this out there, because it's important that people really understand that we got to be the ones to stand up and force the change, because these are elected officials. A lot of these are elected officials. And
that's correct.
If you keep electing the same ones over and over, nothing's going to change. And you have to be educated on what's going on and who you're voting in, especially with DAs. DAs elected positions. You know what I mean? So you have to be educated, so you'll know who to elect and know who to put in office that will be fair, because that's what it's not about fairness right now. It's just about how many convictions can we get. whether you're right or wrong. And they're not. And
that's right.
Their oath is supposed to be about justice and fairness and finding the truth, but they don't. That's not what they do. It's not fixed on that anymore. It never probably was.
Not at all.
It was all about
that's
convictions.
Right. And every single citizen in this country should ask them, what if that was my son, or what if that was my daughter, who's seen someone being attacked? And this is the key to it, right? As a man, if I see a kid being attacked, being abducted or something like that, or a woman or something like that being raped, I might have to think twice now, because they locked me up. I'm like, dang, if I defend this woman and this kid and I hurt dude and he might die, then I'm going to prison because he died.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Now you got to think twice about defending your property.
You have 1 minute remaining.
And that's, now how is that supposed to, can you live free like that?
You can't. You can't.
Absolutely not.
Well, we thank you for your story, and we're going to make a series out of this. So they'll be hearing more of your story.
Yes, ma'am. I greatly appreciate you. I'm looking forward to doing more, and we make a change. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Take care.